My son tells me he picks. I'm happy right now. I just heard we got a 12 o'clock kickoff for
You're not the only one.
UVA. Yeah.
Those Tecovas boots, Bill?
What's that?
Those Tecovas boots?
The what boots?
Tecovas?
No, these are Lucchese's.
Well, fire away over there.
Phil, I'm kind of doing something on Antoine and Josh as a receiving tandem, and I'm asking this question kind of jokingly, but kind of seriously. Who benefits more? Does Josh benefit more from Antoine, the way the deep threat can clear people out, or does Antoine benefit more from Josh?
That's a good question. It's probably equal now, but I think going into this season, Antoine initially probably benefits more from Josh because Josh had the 101 catch season last year and drew all kinds of double coverage, and then Antoine has taken he was good for us last year, but he's taken a step from last year. I mean, I would call him an elite guy now. So he probably going into the season from a game planning standpoint, I think Josh Downs would have been the initial big concern for everybody. And as the season has gone on, you start to realize you need to defend Antoine too. So I think we're at a point now, and you add Bryson Nesbitt into that mix and some of the other guys that have been making plays and all that, you forcing defenses in our opinion, or in my opinion, to play us from a little bit more of a balanced standpoint. And that's what we want. That's why we're distributing the ball to everybody, because you want them to have to play everywhere. Josh has not been double covered nearly as much this year as he was last year.
The running back room, obviously Elijah Green popped up against Duke and looked good.
Yeah.
It seems like DJ's healthy now, so you got the full five guys. How do you kind of break up snaps now with?
So Elijah is the guy that came out of the spring with the rest of them. So we had this pack of 5 guys in the spring, and Elijah was definitely one of them. And not that he played poorly, but some of the others kind of separated from him in camp. And obviously you can't play 4 and 5 guys. So it's good to have this many good ones. I just want one to lead or 2 great ones. You want 2 to separate. So Elijah has been easily one of the hardest working players on the offensive side of the football since the day he got here. He is light years better than he was when he got here. He's always been one of the fastest guys on the team, if not the fastest. And he's always been a guy that was one of our hardest workers. He's one of those guys that stays after practice 45 minutes every single day. Even when he wasn't playing, even when he was going down the scout team, he was a guy that was over there with one of the starting quarterbacks, and he's working on everything that he needed to work on. And he has collectively gotten better at pass pro, catching the football, which was not his forte when he got here. And, even the cuts and all the different things that he needs to do to get better. But he is one of our most explosive. And so we just liked how he's been running in practice, and he's extremely downhill, which we feel like we needed. And you saw that in the Duke game. And so he'll be in the mix a little bit more than he was before.
Yeah, so what do you do now? You got 5 guys now, it seems. How do you?
Yeah, it's not 5. I mean, because we're not, we're probably looking at playing Caleb and Elijah and Omarion, and I think DJ. I'm not sure where he is health-wise right now, and then you have George, who is, the plays that we have for George are usually situational for Saturday's game. So it's going to be Elijah, Omarion, and Caleb.
Phil, did you watch the Pitt Louisville game on Saturday night? What did you take from seeing the Panthers in that game?
So it was a very physical game. Both teams, I thought, played great defense from a physicality standpoint, and that's what we expect from Pitt. I didn't watch the Pitt offense quite as much, but really the live games like that are my only opportunity to watch the offense. Otherwise, I go and see Gene. Gene and I will talk just so I can get a feel for what they do. Are they up tempo? Are they burning the clock? Are they a high pass team, high run team? You know, all those things kind of play into a little bit what we're doing. But so it was interesting to watch them on offense. But defensively, I didn't see anything different than what we thought. They're exceptional up front, as they have been all the last 2 times that we played them. They have been, you know, all 7 years that Narduzzi has been there. And then, you know, the linebackers are solid. The front 7 is as good as we think they are. And, you know, they do a good job in the secondary. And those guys are stressed a little bit because they're on an island, but, you know, they do a good job of recruiting kids that fit what they do in their system. And I don't think you saw anything different in the Louisville game. Louisville had a really hard time running the football. And you know, they put pressure on Malik. And I thought they contained him for the most part because he's an athlete as well. So I thought Pittsburgh defensively is what we thought they were. And it's going to be a physical battle on Saturday.
Is there almost a sense of relief in scouting a guy that you've seen before after all these first-year head coaches that you've seen on the schedule and coming up next too?
There's 6 new defense coordinators this year, so you got to go back and look at all their old stuff. You know, Pittsburgh I like game planning in the spring, you know, after you see what you have in the spring and kind of where the character and the talent of your team is going to take your offense. And so when that's done and we kind of rehash all that, I like game planning then. But you can only do that for the teams that are bringing back the same staff and you feel are going to continue to do the same stuff. So at least we have some notes here. Like we've got some things to look back on from past games and from game planning from the spring and the summer. And so, yeah, it's just nice not to see a new look. Problem is we need to play well and be successful against this defense. So they haven't changed. They still do what they do well. The obstacles and the problems are still the same. We just have to execute better than we have in the past.
You guys have had a lot of success throwing the ball in the middle of the field at various different levels. How much of that is the tight ends? How much of that is Drake's vision? And how much of a weapon is his ability to see stuff?
How much of a weapon is what?
Is Drake's ability to see stuff?
Oh, it's outstanding. I think right now we just looked at the heat map for our passing game in terms of where we directed the ball, what our completion percentage is in each area of the field. You know, the 3rd level, 2nd level, 1st level, and then out on the perimeter, down the middle of the field. And it's the distribution is where you would want it to be. We're spreading the ball out to numerous people. The tight ends are a part of that, obviously. And we're spraying the ball in all areas of the field. So we're about as balanced right now as we could be. And then obviously that all goes back to, you know, what you alluded to, which is Drake's vision and also I would say his decision making, because he's been on point with that for most of the season, and that's why the ball is coming out quick. You know, we still want to clean him up in terms of his movement in the pocket a little bit, but I've been really happy. I think all of that has benefited from his decision making and his vision, and some of that comes from the height that he has.
And sort of connecting that to CL's question about Antoine, does being able to use the middle of the field with different tight ends and then being able to run so many different routes, does that kind of help Antoine get in some ISO situations?
So I think when you don't have the tight ends, you know, we haven't had 3 here before, right? You know, Garrett Walston did a good job, Carl Tucker did a good job for us. We had a number of guys, but it usually was, you know, we had one at a time throughout the 3 years. We didn't have a trio of them. And now that you have 3 of them, you want to get them all in the field because they can all make plays. When you don't have those guys, you run those routes and do those things in the same schemes that we've run with the receivers. You know, it's a benefit now to be able to do those same things with some of the bigger people because, you know, it dictates maybe a personnel change by the defense. It also kind of alerts the defense that we now have a receiver threat at tight end, not just a guy that's going to, you know, block in the run game in the box for us. They're as much of a receiver threat as the receivers are. So you have to defend those guys. When you had to worry about Antoine and maybe Josh or Diami and Daz at the time, and the tight end wasn't a huge factor, you could spend more time focusing on those 2 explosive players. Whereas now, if you do that, Bryson Nesbitt, John Copenhaver, and Kamari Morales have one-on-one coverage where they have more zone space and they're as big a weapon. So having the distribution on the field, like I said, and having the full cast of characters, the full cast of weapons in the offense with regards to being able to push the ball to either wide out, the slot receiver, the tight end, the back out of the backfield. To me, that's the best balance you can have on offense, and we have it right now. And the tight ends have been a huge part of that. And that helps Antoine, right? If you're going to play those guys, it helps JJ and Antoine on the outside because sometimes in certain formations, certain situations, it guarantees one-on-one coverage, which is what we're looking for.
Coach Longo, is there any players or specific names or numbers that stood out to you on Pitt's defense?
Have it all 11 up. Eight is a problem. 8 on the D-line is a huge problem in my opinion. You got to know where he is. He does a great job. I think Coach said he's 6 foot, 280 pounds, and he's explosive and he's strong. He tackles well and he tracks the ball well. So we have respect for all of them. Not mentioning all 7 or 8 that they play is no disrespect, but I would say the one that stands out or flashes the most is number 8. Number 7 at the second level is a really good ball player. Really good ball player. 31 in the secondary is a good ball player. And I have a hard time singling them out because we really like those guys. I think those 11 can play at a lot of places, so, but those would be the 3, I think. 31 in the secondary, 7 at the second level, and 8 up front are probably the 3 I would earmark as the biggest individual problems that we'll have on Saturday.
Do you ever limit players' names to always numbers?
No, names don't help me win the game. So
Yeah.
it doesn't. No, when we go back and we've got to vote, I have to go find the number and then give them the name. We're talking about call conference and all that stuff. The numbers matter to me because that's what we need to know out on the field, and that's what I learned. I don't know their town, I don't know their name, and I don't care. And it's no disrespect. It's just I just want our guys to know what they need to know to ID things and mark things for protection and coverage and run game and all that stuff. So it's what we need and nothing more, because what we need is enough.
Coach, when you talk about Drake and what he needs to clean up a little bit, it's ball security. The fumble against Duke where Caleb and him sort of had a weird interaction. But how as coaches do you work with him on that? Like specifically work with him?
I liken it to, and I brought this up before, to Barry Sanders. And Barry Sanders is arguably one of the best running backs ever in the history of the NFL, and has he's up there, top 2 or 3 with regards to the most explosive runs, the most amount of explosive runs. He also, at one point, led the NFL in TFLs, right? And so, I can't remember who the coach was.
Wayne Fonts.
Wayne Fonts, thank you. That's a great job right there.
Thank you.
Wayne Fonts. He said, we're going to live with the TFLs. Yeah, that's right. He said we're going to live with the TFLs because what he brings to the table on the other end is so much more beneficial. And so when you watch Drake play, that's what I think about. Like his mobility in the pocket, I want to reel it in a little bit. We want to clean it up. We want to take fewer steps, maybe not move as much, but his mobility in the pocket makes a lot of plays too, right? And his competitiveness, the leaping and all that stuff, and the going for the touchdown, and the throwing the ball on the move, scramble plays, all that stuff. That's part of what he does and what he's good at. We just have to make good decisions when we're living in that world, and part of that is ball security. The number 1 turnover player on every team, for the most part, is usually quarterback, because he touches the ball every time. What we need to do here is we've got to secure it more when we're in the pocket. We've got to be smart when we're running the ball. I think he's been really, really intelligent with where he throws the football. We have not endangered the ball in the passing game but 3 times, knock on wood, right? So he's done a really good job in the passing game. And I think it'll forever be an emphasis at quarterback to secure it. He knows that we've got to do a better job securing that. I mean, it's as big a goal of his as it is mine and the rest of the offense. So, we're drilling it and we're working on it. We're talking about different situations where we may endanger the ball when we're running, and we're addressing it so that we can minimize it going into the last 5 games of the season.
Phil, sort of along those lines, Mac was asking about the self-evaluation aspect of the bye week, the self-scouting, and he was saying, I asked him about Drake, and he was saying, we have to be who we are in terms of our personality on offense. And it sort of sounded like he was saying, we can't make, a square peg into a round hole type deal. Do you, with that, with 5 games left, do you sort of just say, all right, we're a pass first team here, we'll take what we can get in the running game, you know, in terms of just your offensive identity? Are you sort of just leaning more and more into what Drake can do and what he's capable of in terms of just leading the offense, triggering the offense?
So I think my answer to your question would be the same every year. One, the offense the guys, the talent base will take the offense where it's going. You know, and so if that means we can run an option, we'll run more options in the offense. If it means we're going to be a heavier run team, then we'll be a heavier run team. If it means we're going to throw the football more because we have those guys, then we do that. But the other part of it is, philosophically, and you've heard me say this 100 times, we're going to take what the defense gives us, and that's why in 1 year we've had a 550-yard passing game and a 550-yard rushing game, because that's almost to an excess. That's what that particular defense that week decided to defend, the run game. So they give up a lot of yardage and points in the air, and others are going to sit back and they allow us to run the ball against the six box. And so, are we trying to target our best players? Absolutely. Everybody's trying to do that. We're distributing the ball very, very well, so we're forcing teams to play everybody. And it just really depends on what the defense decides to do that week or that half or that quarter or that drive with regards to what we're going to do with the ball. I would not call us a pass-first team. I would say that what I always say, we're going to take what they give us, and if that happens to be, you know, grass down the field where we can throw it, then we are going to take it. And if they're going to defend and drop 8, we'll run the football. And so every play is its own world. And it's probably the thing I say most to Drake is we have to play every play like it's its own game, it's its own world, it's its own single entity. That's it. And we can't let, you know, a negative or a positive from a previous play affect us on the next one, right? And then you get me into my big speech here, which is like these guys have to understand, and I've said this to you in camp, 80 straight plays for a human being, 80 straight things consistently, it's not easy to do. It's not. If it was, everybody would do it. And it's really hard sometimes to get that point across to quarterbacks. The expectation is that you make 80 straight good decisions on a Saturday. And that's not easy to do at all. But a lot of that is they don't even realize it. They say, well, I know the play, I can get it done. I know what my rules are, I'll go through the progression. But to stay focused for that many plays, one after the other, and make good decisions and protect the football is very difficult. And we work on that every single day. That's why all 4 or 5 of our quarterbacks rep every play even when they're not in. So they're always behind the other cue, and they're all getting the same mental rep that the starter's getting, regardless of who's in and who's not. Because it's that discipline you need to have with regards to being focused from one down to the next that I think a lot of quarterbacks lack, and that's why you get erratic play.
Was there one or two or a couple of specific thoughts you wanted Drake zeroing in on during the bye week with the extra downtime? Was there any sort of task you wanted him, you know, you gave him to get after, like with the extra?
So one, really it's been what we've been talking about. One is the number one thing is ball security. So we're trying to identify the areas where the turnovers occurred, and we're addressing those and talking about those. We're trying to secure the ball better in those situations. That's one. Two, you know, we want him to move when he needs to move, but we'd like to have quieter feet in the pocket when it's not necessary. You know, there are times, and Drake can tell you, where we kind of skate to the left or the right, and we've got a good pocket, and now you're making the life of the O-line a little bit more difficult because you see it all the time with Patrick Mahomes. What are you going to do with Patrick, right? It's the same thing as Barry Sanders. I mean, he's going to be mobile, and he's going to make a lot of plays with his mobility, and every now and then he's going to put himself in a bad spot, or he's going to stress the O-line more than he needs to. So you don't want to cage a guy with all that talent. You want to let him be who he is. You continually talk about and work on utilizing what he does so well when it can be a weapon, and not necessarily feeling like his mobility and his athleticism has to be the answer all the time. There are plenty of plays where the plays work, and we just need to execute the play. And we really like him and his mobility and his athletic ability to be a weapon when the play breaks down. And that's what makes him so special, because he can extend plays. We don't necessarily need to extend the play that, from an X's and O's standpoint, has already worked. If that makes sense to you.
You guys good with Phil? All right.
Thanks, Coach.